hero Ike, a human in the form of a demon capable of capturing a fort alone and clearing away enemies with immense magic. However, he has a secret he can't tell the other demons. He is actually a human, not a demon like them. He became a great commander and the driving force of the Mao's army. At the beginning of the episode, a manga tells us about a man named I who, in addition to being a sorcerer, served the army of the demon lord. Aside from that, I was Holmberg's grandson, the master sorcerer. When the war was in progress, one of his servants suggested that they visit Wick by entering the castle through its gates. They won the war more quickly than he had anticipated, he remarked. While they converse, Zier explains that he gave the ZX an Ariete exactly as he had instructed. The conflict is still raging at full intensity. Ik approaches the head of the opposing troop and presents himself as the commander of the 7th Battalion of the Army of the Demon Lord's Immortal Brigade. Having said that, he says the subject is left with only 3 options. The first is to give up and give his men control of his territories. The second option is to take his own life with dignity in the final moments. And the third option is to simply flee. Even though the man is a demon, I would find it strange that he is displaying mercy. He asserts that none of these choices are helpful to him, though. Having said that, the soldier pursues him but ultimately suffers the most. After the soldier is thrown to the ground, the servant Deck goes to the scene and gets the order to tend to his wounds and the wounds of the other soldiers who have chosen to surrender voluntarily. In the meantime, his accomplishments surprise the commander of I. He is, after all, a very capable leader with a ton of potential who is returning to Ik after taking the arsenal with just 1 brigade in just 1 week. After setting up a magical barrier to divide the space and watching the war unfold from the window, he realizes that everything has ended. Despite the fact that he prevailed, he regrets having to suffer a little. He has seen so many people throughout this entire process, and I believe he will never be able to adjust to the blood and violence that come with war. He then takes off his mask to reveal that the reason for all of this discomfort is that, in reality, I am the human. He goes on to explain a little bit about his life, and says that, in addition to being a skilled sorcerer, his teacher, Havard, also had extensive knowledge of civilization and was an advanced person who lived in that world. One day, Hofberg discovered me when I was a baby, and on the spur of the moment, decided to take care of me, teaching me all of his knowledge and magic. But he asked the boy to never discuss lost civilization with anyone. After all, this might still result in global catastrophe in the future. However, aside from that, I also recall his master telling him something else, in which case he requested me to never reveal his identity to anyone by wearing his cloak and mask in public because the Demon Lord would never forgive him. Because of this, I clarified that he was allowed to remove his mask because he had created a barrier of protection around the whole area, making it impossible for anyone to approach him without his permission. But because she was beneath the table and Ik saw her there, a girl was able to see it. This shocks him. Wick is disappointed because the girl, in her desperation, begs him not to kill her, but when she hits her head on the table, she passes out. He did a great job hiding it for 20 years, and he was caught in a very stupid way. After he leaves, the servant approaches him and tells him that he has already taken the castle. However, he notices that Ike is leaving many humans alive and wonders why. Ike responds that this demon lord is not like the previous one, so he doesn't really care how many people they have to kill as long as the mission is completed. However, his servant keeps pressing the button, claiming that the other leaders have given the order to massacre everyone and set the city on fire. This justifies the killing of everyone because there won't be anyone left to pay taxes. Furthermore, Ningen is a commercial city, and if no one lives there, business will cease to exist. While traveling, he encounters a group of men, and one of them approaches Wig and requests a conversation. However, a servant remarks that a mere human being has no business speaking with his master after witnessing such audacity, but the human dismisses it and starts attracting my attention. After inquiring as to the amount of taxes they must pay the Lord, Demon, this person will receive the appropriate punishment. During the conversation, I unexpectedly find myself teleported to his commander, who confronts him with a monster. Using his staff, I neutralized the threat. The commander tells me that he has matured greatly since he was a young child living in hiding behind his grandfather. Homburg Mio, when I see this. He presents his boss as a Sephir, the head of the demon, Lord Army's 7th Battalion. Furthermore, he asks her to send him a message in regards to his abrupt invocation and asserts that she is the only demon aware that he is actually a human. Zero states that this would be just as enjoyable before proceeding, so I assume that she has called him to inquire about Arsenal. He then continues stating that he will take care of it to write his report on this. CFO clarifies that his family members have already brought him the information. So she is already aware of how he took over the city and what he did after hearing this. He inquires as to why she called him. She continues by saying that Daroku is willing to accompany her to the Demon Lord's castle because she believes he made an impression by taking Arsenal in just 1 week and that Daroku wants to see him in person after all. As I'm trying to exit the room, the previous girl wakes up and runs into the barrier I had set up. Then he discovers some cakes on the table along with a note he left asking her to keep quiet and eat them for the time being while he goes to the wiki on the castle's outskirts. In that Zero leads him to the main gate, where Ick worries that the identity checks they will perform on him will reveal who he really is. However, after passing through one of the demons, Sephiroth promises to take care of this and unleashes some magical power upon him. He declares that he is amazed to see that they still know his master, and that he possesses immense power worthy of Homburg's grandson. But he tells them to hurry up. They continue on their journey and tell him that Doberg Castle was constructed to show the demon's influence and magical power, since the Demon Lord is waiting to speak with him. Lord, this is why the hallways are needlessly lengthy, so he approaches his supervisor. How long will it take them to get to the audience room? Zero simply responds that they arrived quickly and that they took the question into consideration. He's jealous that she can use the floating spell, which saves her the trouble of walking all the way to the designated room, and she realizes this. He's asked to wait by Zero. She will have to speak with them after all. First, he explains how Eldero, the current demon, has succeeded in turning the tide of war against humanity, giving the demons the upper hand in a single battle. Darrow has made his revolution in the army of the Demon Lord because, after all, she thoroughly screens her friends and removes those she deems incompetent. However, if she does find someone valuable, she will utilize them to the hilt. Furthermore, Taioke is the one who changed all of this, because demons are born without the ability to cooperate. I'm lost in my thoughts when Zero interrupts and tells him to come into the room right away. When he finds the current Lord Demon, he learns that it's a girl, and she tells Ika that she learned about his recent actions. In response, he claims that all he did was follow instructions. As a result, he gives Sephiro credit for my observation of this inflated act of humility. Taro remarks that he appears to be human, but the CFO cuts him off in the middle and introduces himself as Homburg's grandson. This demon lord knows why the boy spared the human leader and is acting so humbly. He therefore emphasizes that people can feel afraid before speaking and advises against saying anything that would foster mistrust. However, they ultimately disobey orders and support his claims. This indicates that throughout history, both the cities whose leaders were put to death and the cities where they were still alive saw a decline in productivity. The locals continued to be productive during the talk, and he expressed the opinion that Darrow also possesses knowledge of ancient civilization, which he used to revolutionize the Demon Lord's army. After the conversation, Darrow is required to go to the location. However, prior to that, he expresses his desire to see his actual face as soon as he gets the chance, and as soon as she walks away, removes her mask and becomes chilly because she assumed he would soon find out who she really is. After everything is settled in the castle, she returns to the location where she left the girl imprisoned and begs him not to kill her as soon as she hears that the girl has returned. Saying her name and staying calm are his requests. He scares her once more by refusing when she explains that her real name is Sati and that her slave number is 13. Since the girl is aware of his secret, he can let her go. However, rather than killing her, he plans to take up her services. After that, he will go to Islais and declare himself the city's leader. This is, after all, the prize that El has provided for Darrow. In addition, he abandoned his mission and asked the sky why that particular city would have to be the answer. The girl told him the city will be at the forefront of the conflict because that location is farther south than Arsenal. Sefer states that he is disbelieving of the way she leads, and that his current goal is to safeguard EV, veils, and double tax revenues going forward. Kepero appears unconcerned with the aftermath of the battle and whether he chooses to begin restoring the city's morale. Next, his servant is prepared to handle this and estimates that it will require 6 months to rebuild all of the morales. However, after learning this, he makes the decision to work with the demons as well in order to cut down on the 6 months of labor to just 1. I see how he guided things in the direction of a more successful work resolution. The servant asserts that he is a genuine demon prodigy. He therefore thinks that one day, bro, I'll rise to the position of demon lord. All I can say is that, come on, he will become a regular human king if he does indeed become the demon lord. Let's continue to observe this. The man is essentially stuck between a rock and a hard place because the beast will devour him if he stays instead of running. And that concludes our episode for today from this wonderful anime. To continue watching more episodes, please subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Our episode of this wonderful anime begins with the demon army heading to attack the castle. The guards launch a counterattack, but the demon army manages to hurl a massive stone at the castle, causing immense destruction. The battle between the demon army and the castle guards ensues, and we see the mysterious man standing atop the castle, using his magic as explosions continue during the fight. The scene shifts to the Demon Queen, where her assistant informs her that the war with Rosaria is going very well at the moment, but it seems they are forming an alliance with their neighbors to turn the tide of the war. The Demon Queen responds that humans tend to unite in the face of danger and entrusts him with this mission, laughing afterward. The scene then moves to Ike in his room, where the maid Sati serves him tea. Ike thanks her. The scene transitions to Alistair, the leader of the White Rose Knights, standing before her commander in his room. The commander asks if she knows why he summoned her. Alistair responds that it is for the recovery of Ivalis. The commander tells her that they cannot allow other countries to continue exploiting them and orders her to leave. She departs. The scene shifts to the city, where everyone is in a state of joy and play. We see a group of men playing a game of guessing the ball's location. The maid Satai guesses the ball's location, and the game master praises her choice, asking how much she will bet. Satai replies that she has no money. When the game master is about to get angry, he looks at Satai, enchanted by her beauty, and agrees to let her bet on anything, not just money. Suddenly, all the cups are lifted, and the ball is not under any of them. Everyone realizes that the man is cheating to take their money and demands he return it or face death. Suddenly, Ike appears, grabbing Sadi from behind and asking her what she is doing there. She should always be by his side as her master. Sadi apologizes profusely and tells him that there are things she can't resist. She then looks at his clothes in surprise. Ike explains that his goal is to scout the enemy, and he cannot wear attention-grabbing clothes, which is why he is dressed like that. They leave and stop at a fruit vendor, taking some oranges and eating them as they walk. While walking, Ike tells Sadie that the story about the Alliance of Kings seems to be true. Sati is surprised by the term Alliance of Kings, so Ike explains that it's an ancient alliance where countries unite in the face of any danger, regardless of their own interests. Sati says she understands, noting that when the Demon King attacks, they must work together to defeat him. He tells her that the alliance has been formed 3 times before, and each time, the demon army was defeated and driven back to Doberberg Castle. Sadi asks if the same thing will happen this time. He asks her why she's worried since she's human and will be free if the Demon King's army withdraws. Sadi explains that in human society, a slave's child remains a slave forever, and if he abandons her, she'll end up homeless on the streets like those children. Ike reassures her, saying the current Demon King is the strongest and wisest in history, and that both demons and humans are suffering from many problems. They continue walking, and suddenly Ike hears someone calling him from behind. "Hey you! Stop!" Ike turns around and sees the game master from the cup and ball game, accompanied by a very large man. The game master says, "You ruined my game and you'll pay for it." Ike looks around and sees no one watching. He says, "All right then," and uses his magic staff to cast an ice spear at the large man's leg, immobilizing him. Then, sharp ice blades appear around the game master, threatening to kill him if he moves. Ike approaches him and makes one of the ice blades cut the game master's arm, asking what the city's army is up to. The game master initially claims to know nothing, but when Ike decides to kill him with the ice blades, he gets scared and remembers everything. He tells Ike that he heard they formed the Alliance of Kings to fight and defeat the demons, and that the Rosarian army aims to strike the Demon King's army before the Alliance can act. Ike thinks for a moment and realizes they want to gain glory for their country before the Alliance is fully formed, which would give them an advantage during strategic councils and increase their influence after the war. Of course, if they fail, it would put Rosaria in a very difficult position. Ike then asks the Game Master about the location of the attack. The Game Master tells him that the place is Ivolus, and they say its gate is in chaos and poorly defended. Ike leaves with Satai, and the scene shifts to like in his room, wearing the mask. Suddenly, Lilith bursts in, slamming her hands on the desk angrily and demanding to know where he was. She was very worried when she couldn't find him anywhere. Ike tells her that he was exploring Rosaria. Lilith then asks about the strange girl beside him. Sati introduces herself as the maid Sati. Lilith becomes furious and tells Ike that she will be his servant from now on, not this girl who calls herself Satai. Sati retorts that Ike chose her to be his servant, making both Lilith and Sati very angry. The scene transitions to the forest near the city gate. One guard tells his friend that the night is very quiet, and that there are no guards around. Another guard approaches Commander Alistair, informing her that they are ready to move out. As the commander is about to give the order to attack, an army of skeletons suddenly emerges from the ground, and the enemy army starts throwing spears at the commander's army from above. The battle between the demons and the commander's army begins. The commander orders her army to retreat immediately, and they withdraw. The scene then shifts to Ike standing with his assistant atop the castle. The assistant tells him that the commander's decision to retreat was wise, and that they couldn't have anticipated this attack without it. He tells him not to flatter him. Suddenly, a strange man behind them throws a spear, hitting Ike, and he falls to the ground. In those moments, Ike gets struck by an arrow and falls to the ground on the battlefield. The scene shifts to the army commander, who receives the news that the Knights of the White Rose have withdrawn from the battlefield and fled after the Demon Lord's army set a trap for them. The commander gets angry and tells them not to make excuses. He orders the imprisonment of Commander Alistair. The messenger asks, "How can this be? She is one of the country's great generals, and this will negatively affect the soldiers' morale." But the commander replies that he doesn't care about that. She must take responsibility for her actions. How can I face His Majesty if I don't do this? The scene then shifts to Ike, who finally regains consciousness after the arrow is removed. Thanks to God. He asks Darakotan what happened to him, as he doesn't remember anything. She tells him that she healed him after he was struck by a deadly arrow. We return to the moment he was struck. The pig-like man shouts, asking if there is anyone around to help. Darakotan says, "I came and helped you. I am sure there are no scars left on your body because I am a surgeon." Ike thanks her for this. She then informs him that not a single human died in this battle. He asks, "What if the demon lady attacks again?" She responds, "I'm trying to find a way for humans and demons to coexist since they are all God's creatures." She then tells him to stay in one place for a while to recover because, as a human, he could be discovered. She leaves and Ike holds the arrow, wondering, is this the arrow that struck me? It hit me from behind, which means someone must have snuck into the castle and attacked me. He then puts on the magical mask and transforms into a demon. Lilith and the maid Satai come to check on him, thanking God that he is alive. He reassures them, saying, "Don't worry, I'm fine, thank God." The two girls start arguing because each one wants to get closer to Ike and prove that she loves and cares for him. At that moment, the pig-like man comes and takes them out of the room. Ike says to him, "There is something I need you to investigate for me. Please." The pig-like man replies, "All right, sir. What do you need?" Ike explains that he wants to know where the leader of the White Rose Knights who attacked them yesterday is. The scene shifts to the next day in the forest. The pig-like man appears and informs Ike that the girl named Alistair is the leader of the White Rose Knights and has been imprisoned due to her failure after withdrawing from the battlefield. Lilith asks him, "Why have you come to this place? It's a prison for humans, and humans are very dangerous." He replies that he wants to see the Knight Commander because he needs her for a personal matter. He then looks at her and says, "Why did you follow me?" "I didn't ask you to accompany me," she responds. "All right, but you'll feel lonely by yourself if I come with you. I promise to be quiet because you are a calm man and love peace." As they approach the military prison, it doesn't seem heavily guarded, with only 2 soldiers at the gate. Ike says, "I want to enter peacefully. I don't want to hurt anyone at all." But Lilith knocks them down and says jokingly, "What do you think, Ike? I handled them quietly just like you wanted." They enter, but the place is very large and will take some time to find the commander. Lilith tells him not to worry and knocks out the guard with the keys, telling him that the commander is on the upper floor. At that moment, 3 soldiers appear and fight them. The keys are lost, and she tells him to leave it to her and go quickly. Ike says, "All right, but be careful and don't spill blood unnecessarily." Finally, Ike reaches the room and opens the door, but finds no one inside. Moments later, the Knight Commander attacks him. He dodges all her attacks, then hits her hard, knocking her to the ground. She gets up again and asks, "What do you want, you damn demon? Why are you here?" He asks her if she sent an assassin to Ivalice to kill him during the last battle. She approaches him and asks, "Are you really a demon?" At that moment, the soldiers discover Ike. The commander points a knife at him, suspecting he is human. Will the Knight Commander discover the hard truth that he is indeed human, which means he is a traitor to humanity and working with the demon army? Stay tuned for the next episode to find out everything, but make sure to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive all updates. Our episode of this exciting anime begins with Ike finally reaching the imprisoned leader of the Knights. She raises a knife at him and asks, "Answer me, are you human or not?" But then she feels something strange and says, "What is this? Did you do something?" He tells her that he has weakened their senses, making them feel frozen in place, and warns them not to move or they will be severely injured. At that moment, one of the guards falls down, but Ike uses his power to save him from hitting the ground. The Knight Leader is surprised and asks, "Why did you save the guard?" Then she also falls, but he saves her at the last moment. At that point, he begins to introduce himself and tells her that he is the commander of the 7th Battalion of the Demon Lord's army, and that his name is Ike. The Knight Leader then realizes that this person, a commander in the demon army, is the one who protected Avelias with his overwhelming power. He tells her that he is not human and could never be human because he is a member of the Demon Lord's army. But he repeats the question he asked in the previous episode, which is if she sent an assassin to kill him during the battle or not. She remains silent for a moment, then tells him that she is a knight from the Mamluk army and has nothing to say to him. "If you are going to kill me, do it now," she says. Ike then approaches her and uses a very advanced ability called mind reading. At that moment, Lilith arrives and thinks Ike is in a compromising situation with the Knight Leader and says, "What are you doing, Ike?" He tells her, "Shut up and don't speak." Then he takes her and leaves. But the Knight Leader stops them and says, "Are you going to leave so easily? Did you come to mock me after my defeat?" He tells her, "Don't worry. It seems you have nothing to do with the assassination attempt." She asks him, "How did you know that when I didn't answer you?" He tells her that he used a very advanced technique that reads thoughts. Then he opens the time gate and leaves immediately. The scene then shifts to when Ike finally arrives home. The maid welcomes him and he gives her a gift. He had found these beads in the capital of Lazas. Sati asked him about these small white things, and Ike answered that this crop is called rice. As she knew, he was informed to double the amount of taxes he collects from this city. Avelias is an agricultural city with fertile soil where they mostly grow wheat, but rice is much more productive than wheat. This means they can grow more rice, and more food production means they won't need as many farmers. If these people no longer need to grow food and focus on making things like weapons and bricks, instead, there will be more people providing services as well. Sati didn't understand what these services were, so he explained that he was talking about chefs, for example. Having people like those is what enriches the country. Sati got confused by his words and didn't understand anything. So he told her that they would be able to eat a lot of food and collect a lot of tax money as well. This time, Sati understood and told him that he was very smart. After that, Ike asked her to try cooking with this rice. Sati asked him how to cook it, and he replied that he had never tried it before, so he didn't know. Sati was surprised that there were things her master didn't know, as Ike left the matter of the rice to her. All he knew was lower it first, then raise it, and don't open the lid, even if the baby cries. Sati thought about his words, thinking it might be a magical spell. She then decided to do everything she could to support him. Ike was happy with her words and told her that he had other important work to do. And then the scene shifts to Ike standing among his soldiers, where his assistant informs him that he has gathered the armies as instructed. He admits he doesn't know what to do next. Ike responds that they will see what happens now and then tells him that he has gathered all the information he knows. The arrow that was fired belonged to the enemy's army, but Alistair from the White Rose Knights didn't know anything about it, which means someone wanted to attack him and make it seem like it was the work of the White Rose Knights. He didn't want to admit the possibility of this happening, but it appears to be the case. There is a spy in his army. Ike then reads the minds of all his soldiers until he identifies a specific person as the spy. He quickly uses his magic and appears in front of the person, asking if he is the spy or not. And indeed, he is the spy in Ike's army. Afterward, Ike goes to Severo. She asks him what he wants from her, as he seems to be in a hurry. He replies that he wants to tell her something, and she understands that he wants to tell her about the spy. He asks her how she knew this, and she responds that she felt something strange. Then she asks him if he knows who it is or not. He answers that it is the deputy commander of the 7th Legion, known as Jess the One-Eyed Goblin. Severo is not surprised. Ike continues, saying that Jess is very smart and a seasoned warrior, but he doesn't know what to do with him. Severo then says to him, "We will make him pay dearly." The scene then shifts to this spy named Jess informing one of his soldiers that Ike has gone to see the commander. Jess is surprised that he has recovered from the arrow wounds so quickly. Suddenly, one of Jess's soldiers comes and informs him that they can't communicate with our spy in the Immortal Battalion. Jess believes that his cover has indeed been blown and tells them that they must gather their forces and attack first. "I won't let my matter end here." Another soldier comes and tells him that Ike-sama has come to see him alone. Jess meets him, welcomes him, and says, "You should have informed me of your arrival. I am here by coincidence, and it is clear to me that you have come alone, whereas I have brought a large army." Ike asks him, "Are you planning to start a war?" Jess replies, "This is my territory, you fool, and this is none of your business. I heard you got injured in the last battle. Maybe you were negligent in your defense, which is unacceptable for a battalion commander." Ike responds, "We can agree on that point. I should have been more cautious, especially considering the possibility of traitors." Jess then confirms that he knows there are traitors in his army. He asks Ike what he is doing here alone, and also tells him that the strength of his army is more than twice that of Ike's army. "All the soldiers have gathered here to taste your blood. Do you think you can fight them alone? You are really a fool." At that moment, his soldiers surround Ike from all sides. Ike is pleased that all of the spy's soldiers are present so he can eliminate them all at once. Suddenly, Severo launches a powerful fiery attack on the entire place, which marks the end of this world. Fiery balls and burning rocks fall on this spy's village and his companions, destroying everything. The village is engulfed in extreme darkness as the fiery balls continue to rain down, eliminating the spy's soldiers one by one and demolishing the houses. Then she remembers that Ike is down below and says, "He must be all right." We see Ike below, shocked by what Severo has done as she destroys everything at will. He told her to limit her attack so they could easily rebuild later. The price she makes them pay is too excessive. Severo continues her cleanup campaign and sends some of her soldiers down, ordering them not to let anyone escape. The spy Jess tries to flee. Ike quickly goes after him and says, "I gave you two choices. Will you surrender now or after you lose everything here?" Jess orders two of his men to kill Ike quickly so he can escape. Ike easily defeats them. Jess hides behind a rock, trying to stall Ike to buy some time to escape. He indeed tries to run away, saying, "I will make them pay dearly." Suddenly, as he flees, a large monster attacks him, but Jess evades its strike and manages to survive. He escapes and moves to another place, entering a forest, feeling very relieved that the secret passage worked for him. Suddenly, Ike attacks him with a fireball and commands him to surrender immediately. His vice captain asks him, "How do you know this place?" "I am the only one who knows it." Ike tells him that he had someone track him and asks him to surrender, saying there is no point in resisting. The vice captain gets very angry and says, "I am the vice captain of the 7th Legion, Jis-sama," and attacks Ike. Ike uses his magic to counterattack the vice captain, telling him that his attacks are too weak to break his magic shield. Then he strikes him again, pushing him toward a tree, and tells him that all he does is scheme. which is his weakest combat skill. Ike then uses binding magic to restrain the vice captain to prevent him from escaping. The vice captain apologizes and says, "I understand why the Demon Lord's army holds you in such high regard. I think you have great talent and unstoppable magic." He then suggests to Ike that they should take over the Demon Lord's army together. "We have fought humans throughout the ages, but what has the current Demon Lord done for us? Subjugating and attacking humans brings us joy, but the current Demon Lord does not allow us to fight without reason, and we don't like that. I don't even know if our leader agrees, but she doesn't want to become the Demon Lord." He then asks Ike, "Will you join us, Ike?" But Ike refuses his proposal. The vice captain attacks him again, and Ike tells him he knew he was planning something. Then he asks him who is following him in this plot. Suddenly, Commander Severo appears and tells the vice captain, "Confess, you scum, or I will force you to speak, even if I have to tear off your head." Then something strange happens to the vice captain. Ike realizes that the commander has used poison and decides to use an antidote spell, but it doesn't work. They realize it is a very strong poison, and they understand that Jis's followers have poisoned him to prevent him from confessing. The commander approaches him and tells him that his followers have abandoned and poisoned him, urging him to speak and give her the names of his accomplices so she can avenge them. Just as Jis decides to reveal the names of his followers, he dies immediately without saying any comments. This is the end of Traitors, but I feel very sorry for him. The scene then shifts to Ike and Commander Severo standing before the Demon Lady. She asks them if they know why they are there. Severo responds, yes, the one responsible for the conspiracy is the head of the 3rd Legion. Bastio, he brought my deputy over to his side and was planning to kill us. Suddenly, that man appears behind them, grabs his neck with his hands, and green flames emanate from his head. What is the story of this strange man? And what will happen next? All of this will be revealed in the upcoming episodes. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to stay updated with the latest episode. The episode begins with Bastio, the commander of the 3rd Legion, entering the castle. The Demon Queen asks him about what Severo said, but he tells her that what she said is not true. He claims that those two killed their sleeping commander and tried to frame him, so she shouldn't listen to them because they are conspiring against them. He believes they are planning to take the 3rd Legion from him. Severo gets very angry at this provocative statement, but the Queen tells her to calm down, stating that she knows both are at fault. She says, "Severo, you are responsible for failing to maintain the loyalty of your men, and the laws dictate that I must punish both of you." Then, using her great power, she surprises Ike, who wants to do anything for Severo. But the Queen says, "All right, I won't punish you that way. I don't want to lose 2 of my Legion commanders." However, she can't ignore this matter simply, and the solution is straightforward. They will have a match, and the right will be with the winner. A day after this declaration, the scene shifts to Severo and Ike in the chamber. She informs him that the Demon Queen has sent her the details of the duel that will take place between her and Bastio. The duel will be conducted using magical creatures known as puppets. The commander will represent their team, but cannot participate in the battle themselves. Each commander will have 50 puppets. The winner will be the one who can eliminate all the opponent's puppets, and the loser will die immediately. Ike asks her why they have to do something so complicated. Couldn't the Queen have just made them fight each other directly without these complications? Severo explains that the Queen wants to test their strength and leadership skills. She then asks Ike to take her place, and he agrees. The scene then shifts to the duel site, where an official tells Ike that this duel is very dangerous. Ike recalls his conversation with Severo, who warned him that his life was at stake. She told him, "All right, Ike, go in my place. You surpass my talents." She then adds, "Don't get the wrong idea. I'm only talking about your leadership skills. I'm still a better Legion commander than you." Severo then holds his hand and says, "I trust you with my life." We then see Ike heading to the battlefield. He thinks to himself, "I wish she hadn't entrusted me with her life. The burden is too heavy." Jiren asks him, "Is something wrong?" Ike-sama. Ike replies, "There's nothing wrong. I was just thinking that the Legion commander is as strange as the Demon Queen." Jiren bursts into hysterical laughter and says, "You're strange too, because you tell us not to kill without reason." For example, Ike says, "I need to think of a way to win right now." Then they enter a room filled with these frightening puppets. Jiren tells him that these puppets will fight when commanded by their leader and will obey his orders. All of them are equal in strength. so the only choice is based on your leadership skills. The weapons next to them are at your disposal to be used as you see fit. In another scene, we see Ike sitting at his desk and Sati brings him coffee. He asks her, "What do you think is the best way to win a battle, my dear?" She responds, "I don't know." Ike suggests, "Imagine you were about to get into a fight with someone. How would you handle it then?" She says, "I wouldn't want to fight. I'd rather resolve things over a cup of coffee." Ike replies, "I agree with you, but there are many people in this world who won't be satisfied unless they fight someone." Sati then says, "If I had to fight, I'd use a broom, but I don't think I could actually hit someone." Ike comments, "A broom is a weapon that allows you to attack without getting close to the enemy. A sword is a better choice than a dagger. A spear is better than a sword. And a bow is the best way to win because you can strike from afar. And of course, my opponent knows this well." Sati then recalls, "Sir, you mentioned in Arsenam that small bows are amazing." Ike responds, "That's not a bad idea. In fact, it's a very good idea because small bows can penetrate metal armor and are easier to use than regular bows. But that's not enough. I need something stronger than small bows, something they don't know about." Suddenly, an idea strikes him, and he exclaims, "I've got it. I can make guns. They are incredibly powerful, have a longer range than bows, and allow you to attack from hundreds of meters away without your opponent being able to respond." Sati is astonished by the power of this idea, but asks, "Can you really make something like that?" Ike tells her the commander of the 7th Legion is an extremely powerful alchemist. She'll definitely tell me there's nothing she can't do. The scene shifts to Severo, whom Mike asks about this matter. Severo replies, "There are some things I can't do. This thing I made is perfect for protection from sunlight," showing him a pair of sunglasses. Like surprise says, "You always say with confidence that you can do anything." She responds, "I'm not omnipotent. How can I create something I've never seen before?" He explains it's a metal cylinder containing gunpowder that explodes to propel a bullet. "I know you can make it." The scene then transitions to Bastio, who is training for the day that will determine his fate. One of his guards tells him rumors say they are sending Ike, the commander of the Immortal Battalion. "Maybe she is afraid of you, Commander." Bastio responds, "She's the commander of the 7th Legion. She must have some plan, but I will defeat them with this magnificent sword." He speaks highly of the sword, and his friend replies, "It's made from the fangs of a black dragon. It can cut through anything. I'll make many of them for the puppets." The scene shifts back to Ike, who is startled when the Demon Queen suddenly appears in his room. He wonders to himself, "Why is she here? She shouldn't know who I am." She hands him a strange object and asks him to open it. Inside, he finds an array of weapons. She said to him, "This is what you've been looking for. Don't bother trying to hide it. Romberg has told me everything, that he gave you all his knowledge and magic, and the fact that you're human. But I can't do anything to you because I want you to fulfill my wish. No matter how much power I possess, it's not enough on its own. I need people to fight for it. My wish is to build the world I desire and live on this land. To make that happen, I need as many people as possible to serve me. I'm sure you will give me a lot to help me. Do you agree or not?" Ike agrees to her request and promises to help her with everything she wants. She thanks him and leaves, and we notice Ike is very angry. Later, Ike gathers his friends and tells them that the Demon Queen has prepared these guns for him. The commander responds, "The Demon Queen is strange. I don't understand what she's thinking." She then tells him she will make the bullets from lead using her magic. She has a large ball of lead and asks Ike about it. He says it's too big. Make it small enough to fit here. Suddenly, an explosion occurs in the room, and Jaren is shocked. The commander asks Ike, "Did you do this?" He replies, "Yes, I did it with the help of Fiorentina." She talks to him and asks about the explosion and why it happened with charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter. Ike explains that it's something called gunpowder. He then takes the bullets from the commander and says, "Prepare 500 more bullets or something close to that." She responds, "My favorite work damages my skin," and leaves. He then talks to Fiorentina to make gunpowder and bullets, and she agrees, with Jiran assisting her. Then the scene shifts to the battlefield, and when Bastio sees Ike and his army, Bastio laughs and asks Ike, "Will you fight with those guns? And what about Severo? Is she plotting something?" Bastio then puts on his mask, and Ike notices that the steel from which their armor is made is Damascus steel, one of the strongest metals that can't be penetrated by spears or arrows. Thus, Ike realizes he won't be able to harm any of them. He then looks at the Demon Queen and thinks, "It seems she wants me to win." Then Ike recalls the conversation with the Demon Queen when she asked him if he wanted a fair fight or just a test. We return to the duel, where it is announced that the duel is between Bastillo, the commander of the 3rd Legion, and Severo, the commander of the 7th Legion. Each side will lead an army of 50 puppets, and the one who defeats all the enemy's puppets will be the winner, with a loser dying today. The duel begins and Bastillo's army launches spears, attacking the other army and hitting many of them. Bastillo asks Ike, "Don't you have any technique other than defense?" Suddenly, we see one of Ike's soldiers attacking one of Bastillo's troops with a rifle. Ike then orders his army to open fire on Bastillo's army, defeating them all. Bastillo is astonished and doesn't understand how it happened. The Demon Queen then tells Bastillo that the battle is over and he has 2 choices. Either kill himself and die with honor, or she will kill him. He replies, "I will choose another option befitting a demon like me." Suddenly, we see a spear coming from behind the Demon Queen, aimed at her. At that moment, the Demon Queen catches the spear with her hand, and it suddenly explodes, causing several other explosions, and the Demon Queen dies. Bastillo appears with his army and declares, "From now on, I am the Demon King." And so, our episode ends today. To follow the new episodes, please subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Our episode begins with Bromberg, who is attacked by several wolves but uses his magic to defeat them all. Then he sees a person on the ground with a small child and doesn't know who they are. The scene then shifts to the battlefield where we see the Demon Queen telling Bastillo that the battle is over and that he has 2 choices: either kill himself and die with honor or let her kill him. An arrow is then shot at the queen, but she catches it with her hands, causing it to explode, and she dies. Bastillo declares that he is now the Demon King. The battle between the 2 armies begins, and Bastillo orders his army to kill everyone in sight. Bastillo's army kills everyone, and we see Bastillo talking to Ike saying, "I'm sure you can see the situation. The demon army will be mine soon. It's never too late. Join me and I'll let you lead the 7th Legion." Ike tells him that it's a very tempting offer, but he won't discuss it with him. Bastillo is surprised and asks why, to which Ike replies, "Because you'll never become the Demon King." Bastillo laughs and tells him, "I thought you were very smart, but you're a fool." Bastillo's army surrounds Ike from all directions, and Bastillo orders them to attack and kill him. Ike uses his magical power and magic circles appear, from which swords emerge and strike Bastillo's army. Ike then flies into the sky and uses a vast amount of magical energy, hitting all members of Bastillo's army. Bastillo is shocked by Ike's immense magical power and how easily he defeated his army. Then we see Ike rushing towards Bastillo at great speed, grabbing him by the face. A massive explosion occurs, and dust and debris accumulate in the area. Meanwhile, we see Ike after he has defeated everyone except one person, Commander Bastillo, who is still alive. Bastillo tells him, "My friend, this isn't over yet." The battle between them begins and is very exciting. Bastillo uses his power to resurrect the skeletons again. Ike finds himself in a very difficult situation, unable to think. The skeletons attack him with great force, but at that moment he uses his ice power, which freezes the body and shatters it immediately. He also uses the power of immobilization on the group, then swiftly runs towards them one by one and strikes them down. However, the fight is not over, as Bastillo's army is seemingly limitless. Bastillo offers Ike to join him once more, but Ike refuses again. At that moment, a sniper aims a bomb-laden arrow at Ike, but Ike notices and uses a protection wall to stop it. Bastillo is surprised and says, "You're still alive. I thought you were with the dead. Now I see you are not the commander of the so-called immortal squad for nothing, but fighting alone won't save you, my dear. It's time to end this." Ike starts thinking about what to do, as he's wasting his magical power and hasn't achieved anything yet. He realizes that the undead are moving corpses unaffected by dark magic. The demon army attacks Ike once again, this time without mercy or compassion. But in the end, we see the skeletons burning and melting one after another. At that moment, we see Ike's friends finally arriving at the battlefield. The followers of the Demon Queen begin fighting the monsters that have turned against her, defeating them one by one until only Bastillo remains. At that moment, Severo descends and tells Ike, "We've just cleared the area and defeated all the monsters." Suddenly, the Demon Queen appears behind the treacherous enemy and tells him, "Ike is your opponent. I will give you another chance. Duel Ike, and I promise I won't kill you if you win." Shocked that she is still alive, he says, "I'll finish off this weakling right now." The duel begins, and Bastio strikes with his sword, but Ike blocks it with a magical barrier. Bastio then launches a powerful attack, a large beam of dark magic, but Ike deflects it with his strong barrier. Bastio continues to attack the barrier multiple times and fires dark magic again. At that moment, Ike unleashes light magic, which completely dissipates the dark magic. Ike grabs Bastio's hand, causing it to weaken and begin to fade. Severo is astonished by Ike's light magic and wonders when he learned it and how long he has been able to use it, but surprisingly, the Demon Queen is not surprised. Bastio launches another attack on Ike, but at that moment Ike recalls a memory from his childhood. We see him as a small child in a garden, where his grandfather approaches him and says, "Let's start our magical studies for today." Ike begins trying to generate dark magic in a room, and eventually succeeds in creating a magical orb. Then, they go to the garden outside the house, where Ike asks, "Is there a spell that can bring a withered flower back to life?" Ike's grandfather replied that it was possible to revive the flower with white magic. Ike then asked his grandfather to teach him this magic. His grandfather told him that to use white magic, one should be human and study curses, not white magic, as it is very difficult for demons. White magic draws its strength from a pure and compassionate heart, something demons typically lack. Ike responded that he had a human heart but was unaware that white magic could be more terrifying than any blade to those with demonic power. His grandfather then explained everything about white magic and warned him that even if he learned to use it, he should not let others know. We return to the present, where Ike is fighting. Bastio mocks Ike, saying that his ambition to become the Demon Lord is too great and that he didn't care about sacrificing his followers. He was willing to betray his comrades and master for his ambition, as a demon should. Bastio tells Ike he won't forgive him for this. Ike responds that Bastio's end is near. Bastio attacks Ike to kill him, but Ike uses the white magic his grandfather taught him. Bastio dies from the power of Ike's strike. After the battle, the commander speaks to Ike, having realized that he learned this spell from Romberg. She remarks that the spell's effect succeeded. Ike replies that he expected this outcome from the beginning, so instead of accepting the duel, the commander prepared to support him. The Demon Queen interrupts them, informing them of a problem. With Bastio's rebellion, there is now no one left to lead the Third Legion. The Demon Queen speaks, saying, "Ike, you must take responsibility. You will lead the Third Legion, and I will be waiting to hear your answer." Then she disappears. Ike's friends cry and rejoice that he is alive and unharmed. We then see the commander with the Demon Queen telling her, "Ike is under my command, so I have the right to decide where he goes." The Demon Queen replies, "I thought you would be happy, but you serve me, which means Ike serves me as well." The commander responds, "Ike belongs to me, but you will hear the answer from him." Ike arrives and she asks him, "Have you made your decision?" He answers, "Yes." The scene shifts and Ike remembers a conversation with the commander. She says to him, "I don't understand, but did you let the Demon Queen know that you're human?" He tells her to speak softly so that others won't hear. The commander asks, "Why wasn't the Demon Queen surprised? And how can you be so calm? I don't understand what's happening." We then return to the present, where Ike speaks. People are finally getting used to their new city. My men were unsure about living with humans, but they are finally adapting. The same goes for the humans. Ike then says, "I told Severo when I went to serve under her command. My goal is a world where humans and demons coexist." He removes his mask and apologizes to the Demon Queen, saying, "I still have much to learn from Commander Severo, but in return I promise to make Evalias the first city where humans and demons coexist." They leave, and today's episode of the anime ends. Stay tuned for the upcoming episodes, and don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell to receive all the new updates. Our episode begins with the Demon Queen asking Ike about his decision. Ike tells her that people are finally getting used to the new city. He mentions that he spoke to Severo when he was serving under her command, but his goal is a world where humans and demons coexist. He then removes his mask and apologizes to the Demon Queen, saying that he has a lot to learn from Severo. Ike expresses his desire to make Evalias the first city where humans and demons live together in harmony. The scene shifts to Ike outside, where Sadi approaches him and asks, "Are you here, my lord? What's bothering you and keeping you awake?" Ake takes a handful of soil, looks at Sati and tells her that with the soil and climate in this city, they can use the Norfolk system. He explains that it is a method of growing various crops without leaving the fields fallow, allowing them to produce as much as they want. Sati is overjoyed because she loves growing plants. Ake informs her that they will start working soon and are currently busy building a city where humans and demons can coexist. Next, we see a commander and his army fighting another army, burning everything in their path. The scene then returns to Ike, Sati, and his followers standing in a field with rain pouring down on them. Sati asks Ike if this is the Norfolk system. Ike explains that they are currently growing wheat and will let the field rest before planting grass to feed the animals, which will provide them with meat. However, instead of leaving the field fallow for a long time, they will plant barley, clover, wheat, and turnips, allowing them to grow crops without needing to rest the fields. Sati then asks if they can eat the clover, to which Ike replies that it is food for the livestock. He adds that if this system works, neither humans nor demons will ever go hungry. At the end of the day, we see Ike in his office, and Sati brings him tea. She asks him if it's true that he has been promoted to the rank of deputy commander. Ike replies that the position was vacant, so he was promoted. Suddenly, Jiron bursts in, very agitated and frightened, calling Ike by his name. Sati reminds him that he is now in front of the deputy commander and should not address him by name. Jiron apologizes and asks for forgiveness, then asks Sadie if Ike has told her about declining the position of Legion commander. Jiron says if he were in Ike's place, he would have accepted immediately. Ike tells him to quiet down and to explain what he came for, asking if it has to do with the King's Alliance. Jiron informs him that they started moving last night when the 2nd Legion, which was attempting to seize Alista, was defeated. He explains that the 2nd Legion is a group of bloodthirsty warriors who are highly skilled in combat, and no one expected them to suffer such a loss. He comments that the formation of the King's Alliance has already had an effect. He explains that the King's Alliance is an ancient human treaty that is activated when the Demon Lord's army becomes too powerful for a single nation to handle alone, leading the nations of the continent to unite against them. According to his information, there have been 3 such alliances in the past, and the demon army was defeated each time. Their next target could be Evalia's, and if they want to take the city from them, they must first attack the front lines in Evalia's. Although demons are strong in one-on-one combat, they will have difficulty facing the combined strength and numbers of the Alliance. If their city falls, the Coalition army will concentrate in Arsenam, outnumbering them. If they lose there, they will lose everything. If that happens, the demon army will have to retreat to Doberberg, where the Demon Lord's castle is located, leaving everyone in a dire state and shattering Ake's dream of creating a city where humans and demons coexist. However, there is one way to overcome this. The scene then shifts to Fiorentina, who tells Ake and Severo that making these firearms through alchemy is impossible. She explains that she has created similar weapons, but they malfunction after firing a single shot. There is a limit to the precision achievable with alchemy, and their penetrative power and durability are just a shadow of the originals. Severo asks if they can't defeat the enemy with magic instead of needing these weapons. Ike explains that using magic would cause widespread destruction, making reconstruction very difficult. If they want to fight the Alliance, they need weapons that everyone can use. Fiorentina mentions that producing a large quantity of these weapons is very challenging, but one way they could manage it is by making the metal and wooden parts separately. She adds that the dwarves are skilled in crafting such items. Severo points out that the dwarves lost a battle against humans and are now a scattered and wandering people, making it difficult to gather enough of them to produce the required number of weapons. Ake then mentions that the Dwarf King is imprisoned in the kingdom of Azimuth. We see the Dwarf King in a cell, recalling a battle with humans. A human commander tells him that if he had surrendered, none of this would have happened. The Dwarf King angrily orders him to shut up, declaring that he will never let humans use their technology. The human commander threatens to kill his son in front of him if the dwarves do not live under human servitude forever. The scene shows the dwarves living in subjugation, working for the humans, while the Dwarf King remains imprisoned in the castle. Suddenly, the Demon Queen appears before the Dwarf King and opens his cell, telling him to follow her. He yells at her, asking what she wants from him. The Demon Queen uses her magic to make him faint, tired of his constant questions. Then Lilith asked Chiron to get them out of this place. Chiron replied that this person was the king of the dwarves. They exited the place quietly so that the guards wouldn't see them. Lilith grew bored because there were no guards to fight. Chiron became angry with her because they had been instructed not to let anyone see them while they were taking the king of the dwarves. However, Lilith didn't listen and kept complaining about the foul smell. Chiron grew angrier and told her that if she didn't stop, he would kill her right there. Lilith continued to mock him until the guards arrived. Chiron became even more furious because they had been discovered due to her actions. The guards rushed at them to kill them. Lilith used her magical powers to kill the guards. Chiron yelled at her, reminding her that the deputy leader had instructed them not to get involved in unnecessary fights. Then one of the guards rushed toward them to kill them, but before he could do so, Chiron swiftly killed him. Lilith told Chiron that she would inform Ike of what had happened because they had not been instructed to kill anyone. Chiron pleaded with her not to do so, as his position as a strategic expert was at risk. Then Chiron and Lilith leave the place with the king of the dwarves. They all decide to kill Lilith and her friend. Lilith becomes very upset and decides to use her powers to defeat them, only because she promised Ike that she wouldn't kill them. Later we see Ike in disguise, angry at what Lilith and her friend had done because he had told them to avoid being noticed. Meanwhile, Chiron and Lilith are running quickly from the knights, unaware that there were many soldiers and that the Alliance had taken them all. Suddenly, as they were escaping, something huge falls behind them, causing them to stop and see what's happening. They find massive blocks blocking the way. Ike appears in front of them and congratulates them on what they've done, making them realize that Ike was responsible for it. Chiron tells him that they brought the king of the dwarves and then shakes the king vigorously to wake him up. Then they return to Ike's house and Gunter wakes up from his unconscious state. He asks them in great fear why they took him out of the cell. Ike gives him the rifle and asks if he can make one like it. When Gunter looks at it, he says that while it seems simple at first glance, it is actually very complex and would take some time to recreate. However, Gunter refuses and says he cannot do it. He then asks why he should work for the demons, stating that he could lose his life but would not become a slave to them. He emphasizes that it's not about his personal ideals, but about maintaining peace between humans and demons. Ike then asks him to follow him outside the house. There, Gunter sees many demons and humans living together in peace. Gunter is confused by what he sees and remembers that humans had exploited the dwarves and then destroyed their homeland, forcing them to wander the earth. If his assistance to Ike would benefit the dwarves, he agrees to help because he believes in peace as long as it is maintained. Ike spoke, saying he would ask the demon lord to rebuild the dwarven kingdom. Gunter, feeling agitated, asked if he was mocking him and told him to stop if it was a joke, as rebuilding a nation isn't that simple. He explained that you can't rebuild a nation without its people, and he had lost his people and family. Ike replied that he wanted Gunter to see for himself if it was a joke. They then go to another location where Gunter finds his people and family waiting. Gunter couldn't believe it and asked if they were all okay. His son told him that the demons brought them there, and although they thought they were doomed, the demons provided them with food and a place to live, reuniting them all. They thanked Ike for saving them. Ike then asked Gunter if he would help him achieve his ambition. Gunter replied that he wanted to see Ike's ambition and shook hands with him. Gunter thought to himself, his hands are warm, even though he's a demon. The scene then shifts to Ike, who is with the maid in the room. He tells her, "Why don't you take a break? If you like books, you can read them when you're not working. If you can't read, I'll teach you when I have some free time." At that moment, the demon queen enters the room and says that she has gathered all the dwarves scattered across Arsena. Chiron then calls out loudly, "There's a big problem." The scene cuts to a knight speaking with the general, saying that the demons have kidnapped the dwarven king. The general replies, "I don't know what the demons are planning, but that old man can't do anything." He then asks another knight how many troops they have in Ivalice. The knight responds, 500. He adds that all the battalion leaders are heading there to support them, so the number should increase. They have 12 regiments, equaling 12,000 men. The general then tells them that it's time to move out. And with that, today's episode of the anime ends. Stay tuned for the upcoming episodes, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get all the latest updates. The episode starts with the Borgerin, who is stuck, and his friend encourages him, saying, "You can do it, you can rise from darkness to light." But Jiren tells him, "It's easy for you because you're lightweight and can also use flying magic, but I have no power and can't do anything." Then they pull him out and tell him that he should work on himself and see a doctor to lose some weight, meaning a lot of weight. Jiron responds, "My friends, I have lost years of my life more than the fat around my waist. Haven't we reached our destination yet?" They tell him it's up there. They finally reach a cave with natural rock salt. The scene shifts to the city, where we see blacksmiths making weapons. A demoness arrives and tests some of these weapons. Outside, Jiren is training a group of goblins to shoot and aim at targets, and he is surprised that everyone is a sharpshooter and hits all the targets. The scene then shifts to Aiken, a red goblin leader, who says to him, "I can't believe you fixed the gate in such a short time. What kind of magic did you use?" Eek tells him he did it in shifts and also paid the humans. The wolf leader confirms that Ake indeed did this. At that moment, a huge figure jumps from above and collapses the roof on Ake. He greets Eek and tells him he hasn't seen him in a long time. The huge figure then sits beside everyone, and Ake talks to them about Severo-sama, saying she will make him a deputy responsible for everything in this battle. And he is the one in charge here, so they must follow his orders. The red goblin leader agrees with Ake, as does the wolf leader, knowing that Ake has crushed the evil Bastio. The three leaders decide to lend Ake their strength. They hear that the enemy army numbers 12,000 while they have only 2,000. How will they fight them? The wolf leader says each of their soldiers should kill just 6 of the enemy, and they will defeat them face to face. Ike then says not all of us have the skill of the famous werewolf battalion. The yellow-fanged one suggests, "Why don't we attack at night? The darkness is our ally." But Ake tells them that the enemy has strong spotlights that will easily reveal everything. Ake then shares his opinion, saying he will fight them here in this place. When your army is large, the situation is excellent and things will proceed well. Yes, we will make them attack us here, and we will crush them afterward. I am very hopeful that we will defeat them just like the leaders defeated Israel, and we will end the matter with minimal losses. Then Sati cleans the place and talks to Ake, who asks her, "Aren't you afraid?" She replies, "I'm not afraid, and I am confident that our army is very strong." Sati tells Ake that she cannot fight but can help with preparations. Ake appreciates her efforts and mentions they have more soldiers to care for. She asks if there is any different food they can offer to the troops since they have only been serving soup. Ake finds the idea excellent and starts to suggest recipes. She reminds him that he has many tasks to accomplish, but he insists that food impacts the soldiers' morale, which is part of his job, especially since they have plenty of supplies. Sati credits their abundance of supplies to what they learned through Norfolk's methods. Ake asks if they have rice, and Sati confirms they have plenty. He then requests her to cook fried rice. Sati heads to the kitchen and quickly prepares the meal. She brings the fried rice to Eke, who is delighted by how fast she made it, meaning they can prepare large quantities. Ake emphasizes that boosting morale is crucial. When it is time to taste the rice, Jiron enters and complains, saying, "It's not fair that you eat without me. I want to eat with you. It smells delicious." Sati tells him it's called fried rice. Soon after, Lilith joins them, also wanting to eat, declaring it unfair to be left out. Everyone starts eating the delicious food eagerly except for Ake. Lilith asks Sati for more rice, and Sati serves her another plate. Seeing that Ake hasn't eaten from his plate, Jiron asks if he's going to eat. Ake explains he hasn't eaten because they plan to use it to feed their troops. Jiron comments on how delicious the rice is, absorbing the flavors of the oil and meat, and notes that even other battalions, which include many meat-eaters, would enjoy it. Ake continues to ponder their situation. They have soldiers, the walls are repaired, and their weapons are ready for battle. All that remains is to fight. Then, the time for battle arrives as the enemy approaches to fight. Everyone prepares for combat, and Ike decides to head out to join the war. Ike, his friends, and the monsters wait, with Ike thinking to himself, if this city falls, the coalition forces will gather around Arsenam. We must stop this no matter the cost. We will do everything we can to protect this city. The enemy army's commander observes, their army is smaller than I thought. We brought the finest warriors from every kingdom. This won't be a war. It will be a massacre. Crush those vile demons. The commander orders his soldiers to begin the attack, launching swords and bombs at Ike and the demons. However, Ake uses his magic to create a barrier that prevents any strikes from reaching them. The enemy commander, realizing it is magic, says, "It's magic, but we won't give up. Attack again!" They throw another volley, but the barrier blocks everything once more. Ake remarks, "They did exactly what we expected, and we were ready for it." The Demon Queen responds, "You are the strongest mage in the demon army." Ake wonders what their next move will be. The commander orders another round of bombs and arrows, which Ake deflects with his magic. Suddenly, something happens, and the barrier disappears. Bombs and arrows rain down on them, leaving Ake astonished by what is happening. Then some soldiers charge at them. Ake, still in shock, says, "This won't be easy, I suppose." Jiron tells Ake that the riflemen are ready, but Ake refuses, saying, "Not now, leave it to them." And then the giant red demon hurls massive boulders at the enemy, crushing many of them. The smaller demons fire arrows at the enemy soldiers. The enemy soldiers, however, manage to kill the giant demon with numerous poisoned arrows. They then begin attacking the castle wall from above, using wooden ladders to climb the castle. The demon soldiers prevent this by hurling stones and spears at them. Meanwhile, the deputy commander of the human army remarks that the demons are putting up a decent fight. But it's only a matter of time. If we keep up the pressure, we will surely defeat them, he says. The commander asks what's for dinner, expressing his desire to eat his meals in peace and finish this before then. His assistant is puzzled and asks how this could be done. The commander orders the large catapults to be used again. His assistant warns that they will hit their own men as well. But the commander dismisses the concern, saying victory is the most important thing, and their numbers are so large that they can afford the losses. The catapults are fired once more, and Ake tries to counter with his magic, but to no avail. He orders his men to duck down. The attacks cause massive casualties on both sides. Ake and his comrades are astonished that the enemies have struck their allies too. The deputy commander of the human army orders the second unit to attack, but Ake's female soldiers warn that they must not let them enter the castle. The armies clash again. Ake becomes very angry as many demons have died. Sati tends to the wounded and cares for them, deeply saddened by their plight. Will Ake-sama's army be able to overcome the enemies, or will victory belong to their foes? Ikeyama must have a plan. Stay tuned for the next episode to discover the rest of this story. But before you leave this video, please subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive all new updates.